Hello, Martin. Welcome to episode 102.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, 102.
How you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah, very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about you?
All good, thank you. All good.
Yeah.
You've been playing. I've been playing. I've been watching war films. You've been reading war books.
Yes,
It's
very good
almost
war book.
like
Yep.
this thing's popular still, which is
Yeah.
it's going on. So what have you been up to? What have you been up to?
So I've been. I wasn't very well a couple of weeks ago, and I took a little while to recover from that. But I'm back now. I'm running a couple of miles every other day. Not a long way to anyone who runs, but that's good. I've been going on long distance walks, and I tell you what, I have found like I've walked like some 6 or 7 miles, and I've stumbled into a village which is like time forgot, and all around the village is so feel so remote. Old houses, all thatch, beautiful. There's no cars. I mean, there is cars parked on drives, but like it's like so ridiculously quiet. And I tell you, they're magical places, really, really, and they're only like a few miles from where I live.
Wow.
No idea these places existed.
You wait till you stumble into London. You'll be amazed by it. You'll be. Wow. Okay. That's nice.
I mean, this place looks like the Romans just abandoned it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
But, there we go.
Nice, nice. And you have been reading as well.
Oh, my word. I've read a fantastic book. So, shall I hold it up? But I think Dave's got a picture that he can... Yeah. There.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. So it's simply called Tank Action, and it is the memoir of a guy in World War II. So he goes to Normandy in 1944, not on the D-Day land. He lands like a week or so afterwards, and he's put in charge. He's an officer, junior officer, 19 years old. He says like all the training that they did was out of date. Really, they got there, had to kind of learn it in very intense combats. Unbelievable. He's 19 years old. He's in charge of like a 3 or 4 tanks or whatever. Right. And I mean, the fact that he survived some awful, incredible. It's very, very well written. It's some incredible near-death experiences. It is remarkable that he kind of gets through the war. And he describes like one of his first things that they do is take out a tiger with Shermans and not even with a Firefly. So this is quite interesting from an ASL point of view, because obviously tigers are difficult to
presumably
to take out.
He waited until the bow machine gun had fired once and the coax had fired in the other direction.
That's right. Then he went around there.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're not on their own. They're never on their own. There's always other tanks. And he was told if they see a tiger, just to fire at it as fast as you can, as much as you can. And all the other Shermans join in. So there'll be like 8 or 9 sort of Shermans firing high explosive at a tiger. And it's like it fires the Shermans fire much quicker than the tiger. But it's being plastered in high explosive. And, if I mean, he doesn't really describe this, but if you could imagine being inside, a steel box being with like continuous high explosive explosions over you, it's disconcerting. It's difficult to fire back. Also, they're likely to break the optics, so that even if they get shot off, it's not going to be as accurate as it would be otherwise. And they capture a tank almost undamaged because he said like sooner or later something like a little bit of something will go inside a weapons, not a vision slit or something like that, and they'll just unnerve the crew, and they just sort of get out, and run off. So they captured the first tiger captured by the British in World War II by that method.
Wow. Yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it? It's not something you can do in ASL, because the tiger would just go bang, 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 wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That. Yeah. That's interesting. I
Yeah.
will read the book. I will read it. It does sound brilliant. And you said there's some maps as well in there.
Yeah, so that's right. So I think I've sent you a map, so you could perhaps put it up. But it's very, very simple. Like, sort of, this is where my tank was, and this is where my friend was going around to flank them or whatever. Because it's so real. It's so what it was kind of like really like, and just being 19 years old and having that kind of responsibility is unbelievable.
Younger than your son?
I mean, he's younger than my son. He was 20 last month.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible, and I wouldn't put my son in charge of a toaster.
No.
That's not true at all. But no, I couldn't imagine knowing that he was going into danger and responsibility of that kind. It's incredible. but he makes it through, and he died a few years ago.
Right.
You know, I think he lived long enough to know that Brexit happened. You know, was happening.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it? They're so
Mm.
young and so mature and so ridiculously horrific what they went through.
Do you know the thing is, like, so he turns up and he's because he's the officer, he's in charge. He goes along. He says to the crew, like, who are obviously been in action all day or whatever, and not just that, they've all been through North Africa as well, so they're all very experienced tank crews. And he goes up to them, and they're all eating, and he says, "Have you checked the like the I don't know the optics thing on the gun to make sure that the target's right, which is something they're supposed to do every day?" And they just say, "You do it." So
Really?
he goes off, he checks it. He then goes, he finds a sergeant. He goes to the sergeant, he asks him something, and the sergeant says, "What's he got to do with you?" Like he
Really?
completely blanks. They don't even cook him food. He
Right.
sleeps
Oh,
without a
no.
dinner that night next to them because they all
Yeah.
sleep next to each other. Doesn't even get given food. They've all cooked food, eaten it, nothing. So, I mean, that changes over time.
Yeah.
But he said there's nothing he could do. You know, he's just a kid, really.
Yeah.
Turning up trying to tell these blokes what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, remarkable.
Wow.
Mm.
I will read it. It sounds like an amazing book.
Mm.
And it's, I think we owe it to those guys to know their story, don't we, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I watched a film that everybody will be very familiar with, Stalingrad, the German version. That is, I think it's 93, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Amazing film. What an amazing film. The
Yeah.
one, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
they start off in Italy and they end up on the steppe in Russia after some city combat and some sewer and some tank stuff goes on. I mean, it's got it all in there. It's
I wonder
good.
whether that's realistic. Whether one sort of squad like that would experience that
Right.
range of, but possibly. I'm not saying they wouldn't.
Yeah.
It'd just be interesting to know whether they would.
Yeah.
But you really get in that film that sense of breaking down, don't you?
Yeah.
That kind of sense of just lack of normality.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did read this one German said he got out of Stalingrad, like he got flown out for some reason, and what shocked him was getting to normal German lines and there being like order and people were busy getting on with things and there was plenty of supplies and just that kind of look going back to some sort of normal war.
Yeah.
Having been in Stalingrad where everything was desperate and everything was short. And
incredible. They've got the very similar scene to, in The Bridge Too Far where they drop the supply kind of parachute thing and they run out across machine gun fire and they finally get it back after two guys die or whatever. And it's a pack of berets or whatever.
Yes.
And it's the same thing in Stalingrad where they drop over and they're dropping medals to these guys. You know, many medals, like,
that'll cheer them up.
Yeah.
Won't it?
It's just terrible, but good film. But then, of course, I came across, and it's on YouTube right now, so you can find it on YouTube if you hadn't seen it. But also there's a Russian version of Stalingrad, which I haven't watched yet, but I've watched the start of, and it's interesting because it's narrated it's got German and Russian voices on, but for the subtitle parts, they're narrated in Russian, and apparently it's because in Russia the literacy rate isn't good enough, and they wanted people to hear the film and understand the film. And it's got Hitler looking a bit like Hitler in there, and I think there's Stalin in there as well. So it's quite interesting to see all that kind of stuff from the Russian perspective. So gonna watch that as well. Of course. Then I fancy playing Red Barricades, don't I? So I'll have to go back and watch episode 100 again and realise it's.
I wasn't going to mention this, but you bring up films. Literally the other night, I was sat just flicking through. I don't think it was Netflix. I think it was the what's the other one? Prime, Amazon Prime, and came across Bridget Remagen.
Okay.
And I watched that film again. Obviously, a much older war film, but that's a cracking good war film. I really enjoyed that.
Okay.
Have you seen Bridget Remagen?
That doesn't ring a bell. May have done, but I don't.
You should definitely watch that.
Okay. Okay. No, the most recent one I watched on, I think it was Netflix, it might have been Prime, was the one set in the flooded Holland, and I'm going to forget the name of it, but
A Forgotten Battle.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. I've forgotten already, but that was very, very good. That was very good. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been also reading about Burma, the Burma campaign, and they were called the Forgotten Army, weren't they? Was it the 14th Army, the Forgotten Army? And Mountbatten is sent out there. Louis Mountbatten, who was would have been the king's brother, I suppose. No, hang on, no, sorry, would have been like the king's cousin or something like that. So it's quite a senior royal. And he goes out there and he's going to take over strategic command in that kind of area. And one of the real problems they got is they got terrible morale. The morale of the troops, they think the Japanese are like superheroes. They've been smashed to pieces every time they fought the Japanese. And he needs to improve morale. And General Slim has taken over, and he's doing a lot to try and boost morale. But Mountbatten goes around all of the sort of units and speaks to the men, still sort of stood on a jeep kind of thing. And he says to them, I know some of you think, call yourselves the Forgotten Army. Well, I'm going to tell you now, at home, you are not forgotten. No one even knows you're here. And it gets a laugh, it gets a laugh. And it's quite a British way of overcoming things like that, isn't it? Actually?
Yeah.
But of course, but the thing is, it's not, they become so reinforced with modern equipment and constant supplies and stuff. And they build roads into the jungle and stuff that they become invincible really against the Japanese, I think, in time.
Right.
But interesting stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Book. That was another book I'm reading.
Okay, all right. Well, you're very, very well read today. We played It's a Battlefield. We'll talk about that. Do you have the scenario in front of you?
No, but it's in the drawer right here, so it won't take me for long to find it. So, here we are. It's the top one. Wonder why that is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that scenario right now?
Okay, so, well, you played the Germans, and people can see there's there's a German force set up there of about 13, 14 squads. Very, very good leadership the Germans have. 9-2, loads of -1 leaders, a couple of 8-0 leaders. And then coming in from off board, you've got this group of tanks, which includes 3 Panzer Vs. So those are Tigers, aren't they?
Yeah.
And 3 Panzer IVs, and there's a little SPW, little armored car thing. But it's a slightly unusual story because you've got the whole of the board above, which we don't really use a lot because what the Germans have to do is capture 14 building hexes in that bottom right-hand corner, that little sort of village down there. So I guess it gives perhaps a little bit of room for manoeuvre. Perhaps Germans could potentially sort of swoop around or whatever. Defending, we've got 10 British squads, a couple of medium machine guns, 2 76 double L anti-tank guns, which are the good British anti-tank guns that can take on Tigers from the front, certainly take on these Tigers from the front. And on turn 3, the British get a little group of Shermans. That's not quite true. Sorry, a couple of Cromwells, 2 Cromwell 4s, and like the Firefly Sherman, one with the big gun. So it's in some respects it's quite a sort of a straightforward, typical. This is what ASL does, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. It's very. It's a very meat and potato scenario, isn't it? Really, it's not. There's not, apart from this idea of, you can go around the top and over the top.
That's right.
And maybe that's more important than we played it as.
Perhaps. The other thing is the British can't set up forward at all. So there isn't much options for the British to sort of set up to kind of intercept that force moving in.
Yep. And you're setting up, is it behind the red line, or what was
behind the red line? And you can see the only place where that bulges is in building use. Actually, no, it's behind the red line the British set up. That little bulge is because that's one of the victory condition buildings.
Okay.
So it's the rest of that village and that building there. Yeah.
So it's interesting because you've got this kind of like sort of 8 or so hexes of like contact, as it were. Like, you've got to get across this, but the hedge stops a lot of it. And although you are able to jump into the first level of some of the buildings there, I was surprised you didn't go into V8 and V9 just because that felt like they had some good line of sights across there. And that was
the only thing I was considering was the difficulty of getting out of those buildings. That's the only reason I didn't.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So it was a very. I think straightforward is kind of the word for this one. Like almost simple is probably too strong a word for any ASL scenario, but it kind of was as simple as it gets, really. So should we whiz through and see what happened?
Yeah, let's see.
So I set up. I think I remember talking to you at the time saying I've got an embarrassment of leaders. It's crazy. Like
Yeah, it's crazy.
you don't realize how many.
You've got 6 leaders.
Yeah, it
Only
just
2 of them are 0 modifiers. The others are negative modifiers. Yeah.
it was bonkers. So the idea for
Mm.
me was that the Panzerschreck guys were going to kind of trying to get up this way just in case the tanks came, your tanks came through here. So I thought I would need the Panzerschrecks in the open, with the Panzerfaust being able to take care. What's the year, Martin? Is 44?
This
Wasn't
is 1944. Yes.
Yeah.
So you have Panzerfaust, but they're normal Panzerfausts.
it? Right. And the key thing is we do not have the close combat weapon. What was that word again, Martin?
Yeah, the Schnuffelfudel. No, I don't know how you say it. So we don't have it because it's not
Yeah.
1945. That's right.
Well, yeah, because it's July or July.
Yes, that's right,
44,
yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. So,
So I can attack them in close combat with a reasonable odds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my approach for this one was a little bit of an experiment. I thought I would try and see how long I could keep my tank's crew exposed for, given that actually there were a lot of targets, a lot of infantry, and the sniper number wasn't great. So I kind of thought, well, let's see how we get on, really. First thing really was just to throw the tanks. Now, okay. I started with version 6.6.8 of Vassal.
So this will improve in a moment, won't it?
Yeah, and so basically you'll see that the tanks are often dropped in the wrong hexes, and it drove me mad. It was like an absolute and I know that it's been talked about in the Games World stuff. I think something in Vassal, maybe the Vassal has changed to do with where you pick the counter up rather than where you drop it or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was infuriating.
We reverted to 6.6.7.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
To continue, and now it's nice and smooth.
Yeah, that's right.
I wasn't having any difficulty, but then I didn't have any tanks yet. So.
Exactly that. Let me just load the continuation from here, because this was that was the first one.
I think that's the first one because we at this point changed the number, the Vassal number.
Yeah, that's right. So then it's off with the. So yeah, I just brought the tanks on just to get them on the go, and then push forward for the infantry to start with, just to see what was going to happen.
Yeah,
and I mean,
that
it really.
It is quite slow movement, though, isn't it? I mean, going through the grain is slow.
Yeah. So you strip a bit of concealment, you break out one of the guys, but not to worry. Not to worry. A little bit of shooting back, and this was the advantage of the hill. There is that I think, as you said, if you would have sat in V8 and V9 now, I'm not sure you'd want to even be there anyway. So whether or not you, but maybe there does need to be a machine gun up there just to discourage.
The thing's, at the moment, I could still escape, couldn't I? I mean, you haven't done your advances yet, I don't think, but we're here. Yeah, I probably could still get out. But it's already would be looking precarious if I was getting out of V8.
Yeah. So, yes, it's a little bit of manoeuvre for you. And then off to turn 2. I joke about your guys at the top, right at the top of the map here, being dummies, because I could see you weren't moving them particularly quickly, which is always a suspicion if you just assault moving there.
They were indeed dummies, Yeah,
so you're enjoying the fire lanes.
Yeah. Quite a few fire lanes. Now you're playing a good player, Dave, when you get a lot of fight.
I do.
Very pushy with those tanks.
I was very pushy. And you know what? Yeah. I kind of thought, I'm going to find those guns one way or another.
And actually, that tank is in the sights of a gun.
That's right. But
I don't reveal it yet.
You're very good. You're very good at this. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense, because it means I don't get to react to where the gun is on my turn.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's very good. And I start to pick up some buildings already. So you're pulling back. And even here, you don't fire, do you, at that tank?
No.
Now I turn my tank like this.
Now I'm getting excited now.
Yeah, this is the tank that we're excited about here. So notice this hex here that I haven't bother to fire at or anything.
Yeah. I mean, actually, both tigers are in its line of sight, but I can see one of them is on the side.
So basically surround it again into bypass. But basically it's like we're just able to move and suppress and move and suppress.
Yep.
And at this point I'm already doing, like Toby's favourite game of like kind of counting the number of hexes I've got to go to and realising that, there's still 5 turns to go.
Yeah, and you've already got a fair number. Yeah.
I mean, all I've got to do really is advance and I'm okay at this point.
But I haven't really resisted you yet, have I?
That's right. That's right.
It's like pushing into cottage cheese, isn't it?
So I bring these tanks around here at the bottom just to stop your tanks coming on through here. I didn't know if that would discourage you. I hoped it would discourage you. And then it also gets the guys. And then, the gun comes out, destroys.
Now the gun, I'm thinking, is really useful for firing at the infantry. I mean, that's the only tank it's going to get a shot at, probably, isn't it? But it can fire at the infantry, and you've got to cross that little bit of open ground.
Yes. Yeah. And here's where we stopped it. And I think I said to you, I'm one bad prep fire phase away from, or maybe it was the one after that. But I kind of
it's the one after this. Yeah. At the moment, you're doing fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's have a look and see. Okay. So we'll see now how we get on. So the next session. Oh, because it's your tanks coming on.
Yeah. I badly misuse. I kind of do a miscount, and I don't do a good job with these tanks.
Yeah, this is interesting. So the tricky thing here is, I thought that your tanks would be best placed just sort of bolstering the in here.
100%. Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to be the one to force the contact here.
Yeah, I agree.
So you're a bit more aggressive with them.
Yeah.
And to be fair, this is okay. I think in general, and I think this is the kind of the rule I try to remember, is that whoever gets the first shot off generally will win. It won't be on the first shot that they will destroy the tank, but it'll be on the second one. So generally,
it's normally the defender, isn't it?
That's right.
They get to acquire. And
that's exactly it.
You take out the tank, and that's what I was expecting to happen. I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking.
But the advantage here is that I think the reason why you're not terrible here is because you do have like a superiority of numbers in this little area.
Yeah.
And I kind of figure like, okay, well, if I only take out one, then you've got 2 tanks back at me that will get their second shot off at me.
Yeah.
And that's.
But they've misplaced the 76LL needed to be able to fire as well.
Yes.
I think that's the issue. And then I would have had something like a chance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So your advance is just to shore up everything, and that's looking okay in there. You've kind of got your line back.
Yeah.
So you're not looking terrible here. Suddenly that little extra bit of open ground is a little bit more difficult. So exactly. I shock your tank.
Yeah.
And then shock the other one as well.
I always come back from shocks, so
you
they
do.
never worry me.
You do. We get the mobilisation as well. So that was where we had to double check that rule about if you hit and it would kill on less than 5, you get a bailout check each time.
Yeah.
So we get to do that. And then it's a case of just trying to just swarm this gun. You take the tank out with the Piats. Yeah, the Piat gets a nice shot off there.
Yeah. And of course, my crew is broken at the moment, which is why you're risking this move, I think.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff there. So I just kind of pile on in that corner. And the reason being, there's a lot of victory points down here that I can potentially jump into.
Yeah.
To win the game. They're a little more advancing, but these areas are quite well defended here.
And there's a lot of firepower as well.
Right. So
in the bottom group,
yeah, exactly that. So I'm kind of a little bit like I'm not. This is not a cakewalk at this point. No, the 9-2 is very impressive though with the 8 morale leaders.
Yeah.
The 8 morale
troops.
troops.
Buildings, isn't he? And stuff, so it's difficult to do anything to.
So yeah, he's making he's getting his money's worth out of that leadership. And
I feel like I'm in trouble, but I think we do manage to extricate ourselves from
yes,
most of this. Yeah.
yeah. So you're encircled in there.
Mm.
Yeah, this is where I'm starting to think.
One of my
Okay,
tanks came back.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And the fire goes round.
Mm.
Yeah, and this is interesting because I've got a bit of choices down. I think this is well placed. My Panzerschreck guy is broken, and my other Panzerschreck has a chance here.
Yes.
These guys, but we destroy one of the tanks, and then
they fire.
yeah, and this is the rate of fire with this this guy underneath here is enjoying himself. Yeah, the Panzerschreck has a go.
Yeah.
And suddenly,
Got my crew back. Got my crew
yes,
out.
yeah. Suddenly those tank reinforcements aren't looking so good.
No. I misplayed them. I think it was exactly what I should have done. Is exactly what you said.
So able to push in, you do kill one of the Panzerschreck, and you get the Panzerschreck as well, which is quite a nice little
useful. Yeah.
It's a target-rich environment there for him.
There's my second anti-tank gun appeared.
Yeah, nice. You find that.
And now again, it's useful against the infantry
Yes.
which are moving in on those buildings.
Now the trouble is, it only has HE on an 8 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but still, it's a pretty good position for it to be in. You do have some nice targets. So you take out another tank.
Yes. It's a tankless
task.
Isn't it?
Yeah. You stun one of my tanks with the sniper. That's the button up thing costing me. The blazers helped a little bit.
Yeah. So is it about here that we stop?
Yes,
and you
exactly
say,
here.
and you've got one prep fire from disaster.
Exactly that. So it's looking good for me. But I do say, like, if you get one great prep fire shot, you break or phase, and you break these guys.
There's 3 squads in that hex down by the 9-2, plus the 76 double L. Plus the medium machine gun is a squad with a 9-1 leader, and you got the Piat crew. Yeah, so it's anything can happen, I think, at this point.
That's true. That's true. And
and I'm
we
holding
know
at the top. They're
the dummies.
holding their own.
The dummies didn't need anything else.
Well, those guys aren't doing much, but the guys that are real are real.
They were, or if anything, that was a little bit too well defended because I couldn't get past the first medium machine gun, and the 2 guys next to them here aren't really doing a lot. Yeah. So we see how the prep fire phase goes. And you start by rallying some stuff, which is quite useful. I recover a machine gun and don't fix the machine gun.
Yeah.
And
so I did quite a lot of prep fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
pins the squad.
Pins the squad in there.
I don't think I achieved my shells. Oh no, breaks the guys in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a kind of a typical prep fire where you get a little bit of results, but But the problem was
then, of course, you get to fire back.
Yeah. And there's a lot of firepower coming back at you.
Yeah. I lose a lot of squads.
Yeah. So the dust settles.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
much in Endgame now. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't have a lot left to push through. So if you look at your top section is completely held out.
Yeah.
There's no, I can't break through. I've also got to be mindful of you having a counterattack and grabbing a bunch of buildings on your last turn, even though I have the last turn.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit nervous about that. I've got the 9-2 in a decent position if I can get past the gun crew, but I do have to get past the gun crew, and I think at this point you've run out of HE. I don't have the infantry around the back to push into these buildings, and you cannot voluntarily abandon your vehicles in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with my last turn coming up, So I think I've got one more turn where I can do a little bit of damage to you before I've got okay. I think I need something like 3 or 4 more
Yeah.
buildings, something like that. So it's a little bit of a jump in.
Yeah.
Now we know that I'll be able to get the AA9 building at the bottom there.
That's right. Yeah.
But the 9-2 still got to, and the blaze here has helped, by the way. I mean, this has absolutely helped because it's basically like a wooden building in there that I'm able to jump from into the other buildings here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the close combat.
Yeah, you kill the crew. So this break means you can now, in your last turn, move out and capture buildings.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's a breakout, isn't it? Literally.
Yeah, exactly that. So I was just saying to you at this point, I think I've got something like 7 buildings that I could potentially get.
Yeah.
So you try
and I had to think very hard how I can give myself some sort of probability of even a remote one of stopping you from taking enough buildings.
Yeah. Here we you're very kind. So I was talking about taking the fire at you in the bypass. And I mistakenly think I have to, for some reason, every now and again I get confused with the snapshot. I think whatever's happened last, if it's been a snapshot, I remember that you've got to draw a line of sight to both vertexes.
That's right.
And if it's just firing at the bypass, it's obviously just a
bypass, you don't. It's just one vertex. Yeah.
And so obviously, when I say okay, I'm going to take the shot, and I strung it. In theory, I was going to string it to both, and so the one on the left-hand side of this vertex, I think, was the most difficult one to see, and that was blocked. And it was okay, that's blocked. And I was like, wait, because then of course you very kindly let me go back, and I take the shot because it's the bypass on that vertex rather than both of them. So I think we pin you there, which is as bad as a break for you, really. Because it means that you can't get back.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you needed to just try and get something into close combat here somehow. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
maybe
that
would have been a better thing to do.
Just to tie me up. Because the danger was that one guy here was never going to stop it.
Yeah.
So you get one.
Well, I can do snapshots, can't I? So one guy there can stop it.
Yeah. So so the issue was I either got and it's interesting to see if for example I have to take one more and there's no other alternative, I've got the option of staying put, prep firing at you and then advancing. Or I can dash maybe this way.
That's true.
If there's no one available here, or we can assault move here and take the snapshot.
Yeah.
But
of course, they may well have fired if we broken by then. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All sorts of things. But at this point, this
wasn't
guy
feeling like I was likely to win. He takes that, and I think I resigned because that's it, isn't it? That's your 16.
I think I think I needed one more, which was I think, or maybe this was the 16th. I can't remember. But basically,
I think it was at that point it became inevitable anyway.
And that was
a really good game. I do wish I'd done a better job with my Cromwells, my Shermans. But,
I think that was probably where the game went for you, wasn't it? It was the difficulty of trying to hold off without those in the town. If for example you've got one of them, one of those Shermans just sat right in here or something,
you just can't go through it, can you? Well, without a patsy and all that stuff.
And I guess the problem you've got is that we've still got the Panzerfaust, so it's not great territory, is it, for the British tanks in here?
That's true. That's true.
But
that's true.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So decent scenario. It was not a great scenario. It was fun in terms of I think the unit compositions were good and the great German leadership. So that you're spoilt by every now and again you get a nice order of battle where you're given all the things you wish you'd had in all the other games. Great leadership, good tanks, good anti-tank stuff, mobility. 8 morale leaders, -2. And then most of the time you don't get those luxuries, so you kind of have
no.
The trouble is when you get given those scenarios, often the victory conditions are very difficult to compensate for it. This one, it didn't feel like it was that difficult. It felt like if you could break through, you would be generally okay. The balance. Did we look at the balance of this one? Should we have a quick look at that?
Oh no, I don't remember looking at it.
No.
No,
We're going to see now it's like 104 to 12 or something.
Pro-British.
Yeah. That's, uh, let's have a look. So, as of a little while ago,
Yep.
the balance was very okay. Not it's not been played very much at all. So,
Okay.
as of
It's not been out a long time. It's
yeah, exactly.
only
It's
recent,
the
actually.
journal, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's never been won as the Germans. It's on Raw, but let's just check. On the archive, it's 1-0 on the Germans, but on Raw,
Yeah.
1-0 to the British. Let me just check on Raw and see
Yeah.
what the exacts.
So never been one when it's only got one recorded playing, isn't?
Let's have a look on Raw. Today's stats. Okay, right. No, so yeah, British Canadian 15, German 24. So
Okay, so a little bit pro. Well, it sounds
yeah,
a little
pro German. Yeah. And it did feel.
So the balance for the British is exchange one LMG with one heavy machine gun.
Yeah.
That's actually quite a big
Yeah.
balance swing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And what about the German balance? What was not that they
replace one of the Panzer IVs with a Panzer V.
Okay, all right.
Actually, do you know what? Panzer Vs are not Tigers; they are Panthers.
I thought it was 6s were Panthers.
No, 6s are Tigers.
Okay,
but I mean, yeah, but I mean they're excellent tanks, aren't they? The Panzer Vs.
Yeah,
the Panthers. Yeah.
So, would you recommend the scenario? What kind of person is going to enjoy that scenario?
Do you know what? I think this is the sort of scenario that I would enjoy if I wasn't expecting it, but you were popping over unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
Said, "Do you fancy a game?" This is the kind of thing. We haven't got to read up any complex special rules. We're aware of the vehicles that are involved. There's no unusual rules there. You could have that out in 20 minutes and be playing.
Right.
And in fact, even the setup isn't desperately complicated, especially for the Germans. I think.
Yeah.
You line them up on that line.
Yeah.
And start moving them forward. So
yeah,
I think it's and you'd play it in an evening as well. It's like go at a tournament, pick up a game.
Yeah.
Let's do this one.
Yeah. Take the Germans.
Yeah.
As always, we'd say a big thank you to our Patreons. We have a new Patreon. This chap as well, Martin, Gary Norman, who does all sorts of good work for the double one scenario, along with Morris as well. And so those guys do.
Well, we've got that tournament that we're very much. I'm certainly very much looking forward to
too.
in just a couple of 3 weeks time. I think.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are in the UK or if you're in Europe, I suppose you've got nothing to do. Is it the week of the? Let's give the dates out. Let's actually get that.
That's on like the 20th, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll confirm that date. So, Double One is a tournament that takes place in the UK. It takes place in an agricultural college, so you will be in student accommodation. So you'll pass your mind back to when you were a student on a rubber mattress and a small room. But nobody cares about the rooms because it's a great venue. It's light, it's sunny. There's a student union bar that you can have cheap drinks in. There's a kind of a student cafe kind of, canteen style food that you'll get. But go on.
20th to the 24th of June.
Brilliant. Okay. So, and we should, if you just search for Double One, London ASL.
Tournament 2024, whatever. Yeah.
And
you know what the highlight for me is, because I don't drink much these days, but there's a beautiful little traditional English pub, isn't there, around the corner? We tend to go to
two of them, I think. But yeah.
There's a number of pubs, but the one that I like is the one that we always have to stand outside because it's so small inside. When the owner puts the key in the door, he breaks the window, doesn't he, at the back of the pub? But yeah, it's and there's nothing like stood outside, in a nice sort of villagey location, an English pub in the summer.
Yeah.
when it's still warm and light until nearly 10 o'clock at night. So
Exactly, exactly
being
that.
slightly inebriated, it's a lovely. It's one of the best experiences on earth. I'm looking forward to it.
Only interrupted by an awkward game of ASL that you couldn't wait to get to a curry
Well, I
place.
enjoy the ASL as well.
Yeah, no,
They're
absolutely.
also really inexpensive to go to in comparison. I'm not that the other tournaments in the UK are expensive, but this is profoundly inexpensive. I think for like 3 or 4 days away from home.
You're right. All right. So it's something like £130 for the accommodation, and that includes meals as well. I think it
Yeah,
includes.
it includes breakfast.
Right.
And then you get the curry night, which is £10,
Yeah.
isn't it? So you get a meal for £10 one of those nights. Then you get the pizzas included in the tournament fee on Saturday night. And the tournament fee is only £20. So the only night that you would need to pay for a meal is Friday night. But the canteen is inexpensive, isn't it? Canteen's inexpensive.
And they also bring out some sandwiches and some bits and pieces.
Yeah, I mean, you
days.
can buy lunch. You can buy lunch, and that's not provided. But there's certainly. It always seems to me like something free is coming out.
Right.
And of course, there's free tea and coffee, isn't there, and biscuits as well,
and hot chocolate, yeah, on the machine.
All of which they could charge for if they wanted. I don't think the organisers of the tournament probably might listen to this, but I don't think the college principal listens to this. Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning how they run the tournament. So how it's run, it's a little bit different to many other tournaments. You're put into small kind of like fire teams or divisions based on your ability, and you'll play the 3 other people in your team, your division, in the mini, and then you go on to the. Did you win that? I think did you win it and then you move on to the semi-finals?
No. Because the time we have, there is only time for you to play the people in your group.
Okay.
So you play 3 games in your group, but they have minis as well.
They're minis as well. Yeah. Okay.
And Friday. Yeah.
So, which means that you're going to play people of your standard, which is good. It's a good thing.
And it means people who are perhaps less experienced or not particularly strong players have a chance of winning the event. Because I would never win a big tournament where there's like one person wins the whole tournament. Without some real skullduggery like poisoning food and stuff. But I have won a couple of times. I've won my group at double one. So
I have a double one. I have a double one plaque as well. So
I have a plaque. Yeah, it's the only thing that has any sort of position of honour in my house and above the fireplace.
I like the way that you put it in front of the kids' photos as well.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to play. I have sent you. So we should mention when we played. What was the last one we played? The tournament that we are now going to get Toby and Jim to look at. What was that called? Do you remember the scenario name? Oh, you're gonna Steamroller. Yes,
yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
So Toby, I'm going to say Toby and I have devised a plan. The only reason I can take any credit is because Toby underspent by 3 points. So I got to spend an extra 3 points. So out of the 53 fortification points, I've spent 3 of these points. Yeah. Toby has spent the rest and placed everything else. And so we have come up with a scenario, a defence. You and Jim Bishop are going to study
plan an attack. Yeah, that's right. In fact, Jim's done that. So I wanted to get this recording out of the way, but we'll no doubt next time we meet up we'll be playing that scenario.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. And so we are going to go to double one, and we're going to play in there. I was at the UK Game Exposition last weekend. I was playing Arkham Horror. I wasn't doing any wargaming, and then a couple of weeks before that, I was at PunchedCon, which is a wargaming one for the UK. And there was funny enough, there was a lady and a guy playing of all games, Squad Leader. They were playing Guards Counterattack of Squad Leader rather than ASL. Wow. So that was actually going on, and it's weird because
when are you getting married?
Do you know something? Right, there was her, and there was another lady playing a really big war game, really really complex war game. Maybe a few acres of the snow, or so I don't know, one of these really big. And the guys that were just being like, "What happens there?" Like, and of course, this is going to sound sexist. It doesn't mean to sound sexist, but everyone kind of thought, oh, well, maybe her partner is here playing, and she's just a very good partner but absolutely not. She loves it. She goes to other games and she's into it. Really good to see. So, and it goes without saying that nobody said anything other than that's really great to see. I mean, there was
Yeah.
there was nothing.
It's interesting because I have a sort of a war game that I do online as a computer game. There are lots of women that play that. A lot of the people that follow my channel are women.
Yeah.
But you don't see them at the kind of the virtually
Right.
men only tournaments,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really interesting. In
Yeah.
fact, the only woman I've ever seen playing at a tournament was the partner of. Although I think they were both quite keen war gamers. So I suppose if they hadn't been together, I suppose she might have come herself. I don't know, but
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's a shame it doesn't appeal to more women.
Yeah, absolutely. And not talking about women, but Andy Smith. I don't know if I told this story last time, but I'll tell it again. So we saw him at the last convention. Andy's an ASL player. He's a lovely guy. He's one of the nicest, kindest people you'll meet in terms of softly spoken, gentle, smiling. Nothing phases him. He's a lovely, lovely guy.
Yeah.
The sun shines when he's around. He's just nice. And he plays he plays ASL, but he plays big games quite a lot. And he'd been playing a game last year, and we saw him on the Friday night, and we were asking him how's he getting on. And he was like, oh, he hasn't set up yet, or he's still waiting for his guys to come on. We saw him on Saturday afternoon. Nothing had happened. And by Saturday evening, he'd got onto the board. He was quite excited about being on the board, right? Last time we said to him, well, it's crazy. Like, how far are you in? Like, and he said, we're on turn 53. And I was like, wow, okay. He said, but I only started on turn 50. So they played like 3 turns this game. This time, very, very similar. He's playing this game again. I don't know what it was called, but it was just massive games, like big 6 foot by 6 foot tables, 400 or 500 counters each side. And he hadn't come on, and he was getting excited about he was about to come on. And I saw him again. I said, how are you doing? And he said, well, my cavalry's just got over the board. They got shot at once. They've all routed off the board again. They're having none of it. It's brilliant. So he's a bit of a glutton for all that kind of stuff. But yeah. So we were at that. We were playing. We saw Gerard there. Gerard was playing North Africa 41.
Doesn't play ASL at all now, or
he's not playing at the moment. No. So yeah, he's just exploring other games.
If you're listening, come back, Gerard, at some point. Yeah, game's not the same without you.
It's not the same. It's faster. It's faster without him. He was enjoying it. So Simon and I was with a guy called Simon Taylor. So we were playing North Africa 41. And then we played, so some of you may know Richard Dagnall. Richard Dagnall is not well at the moment. He's suffering from quite a serious condition. But he has come over to play Here I Stand. He loves Here I Stand. So Simon and I said we were interested in learning Here I Stand. So he
didn't he sort of manage the game?
He played and managed it. He did a brilliant. He did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
And he's one of these guys, Richard, who is going to try and put some spirit into everything. We played with 3 guys we hadn't met. There was the 3 of us that obviously knew each other through ASL. So he gave Simon and I the Catholics and the Protestants. So we were kind of like at odds with each other. And then the others were like the French and the Germans and the whatever it is, the Habsburgs or the Ottomans or something. And it was all kind of just craziness. But it does go on all day. I mean, it really is an all-day game. And the problem with it is that Simon and I were just in a battle of who can flip over a counter. So are you Protestant? No, you're Catholic. No, you're Protestant, no, you're Catholic. In the different regions. We didn't have like armies to control and, wives to marry and divorce and all this kind of stuff. It was all, and some of my turns were just, I would build a cathedral. And a build a cathedral is literally, it's not even as exciting as it sounds. It's moving a counter from one to the next one. That's it. Like, that's all you do.
Right, okay, right.
It's quite. But Here I Stand was an experience.
Yeah, cool.
So that's what it is. All right. We're in the middle of our tournament games. So for those that haven't started or haven't got them finished yet, we're trying to get these finished quite soon. I think you and I are both in similar positions. We're both attacking.
Yeah, I think strictly we have till the end of this month to finish. And I noticed that two guys are playing as we're recording this. Okay. I'm I would say halfway, maybe little over halfway through my game. And you're well into your game with Mike, aren't you? So,
exactly. Yeah, Mike's a lovely guy, so enjoy that.
Might even finish off this evening. Me and Dave are playing this evening.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we're playing tomorrow. So, all right.
Mm.
Well, until next time, we'll catch up. Thank you
Mm.
to all the patrons for that. Thank you for everybody
Yeah.
who's taking the time. Interestingly, I did want to mention the with Steamroller, there was a lot of discussion, which was really good to see on the forums about everything going on, and what could you do, and is this viable defense, and is this a good scenario, bad scenario. Oh, and that
Yeah.
leads me on to the MMP roundtable. I don't know, we're going to have a quick chat about that. It was quite interesting to see. So for those that aren't aware, MMP are hosting like a roundtable every couple of weeks. I don't know if it's maybe less than that.
Once a month, maybe twice a month. I think that's what Kurt said.
Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant. So you can get the link through Discord. There's a if you can search on Game Squad to find the link that you can get to Discord for an invite. And they're talking about the future of ASL and what they're doing and the changes to things like the rule book, and it won't be a binder format anymore. It's going to be just the pocket rule book, things like that. I don't know about you, Martin. I got the sense that, as always, that ASL is in good hands with MMP, but that it's kind of, and it's not winding down in terms of the output. They're doing as much output as they ever did, which is great. I mean, they're doing really good. But I get the sense that we are in like a maintenance phase now of ASL, where we're kind of like everything now is done, and we are just polishing bits and pieces, and we're delivering some kind of a little bit of an esoteric battle somewhere, or there might be another. They're talking about, like, for example, a magazine around just of Twilight of the Reich, so that's an interesting take on stuff. But that people kind of feel like I don't think people feel like they've got enough ASL, but I get the sense that if there was never any more ASL stuff produced and everyone said, okay, look, we're done, we would be happy. We've got enough now. Now, that's not to say that people won't buy more, and they will do. But interestingly now, it's kind of corresponding with people having more time to play ASL because they are retiring, and there are people are moving into that kind of phase of life where there's more time. So it's an interesting kind of intersection where the trajectory of releases is kind of tapering off a little bit, not going down by any means. People have more time, but the main content of ASL is now done, and now we can kind of enjoy the fruits of it all wherever we want to, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always said, even at the beginning, right at the beginning when I was first playing, we'd have conversations with people who would say, well, look, if they stop producing ASL stuff now, I still would struggle to dent the collection of scenarios and campaign games and things like that. I think that's more and more true, isn't it? And in fact, listening to Kurt, there's actually quite a lot coming up. In fact, a couple of people commented that all they really got from that was, get your wallet ready for because there's going to be a few hits. There's a lot of stuff coming out. But I did quite enjoy learning it in that format. Having Kurt, but anyone from MMP, I suppose, literally doing a video, updating us, because sometimes we don't know. We know something's in the production pipeline, but we've no idea how long it's going to take. It's quite good having somebody there to say, well, this is where we are with it, and it should be out before the end of the year and things like that. I quite enjoyed hearing that. But in terms of like kind of the end of the golden age, I think this is only anecdotal, but I go to all the UK tournaments. There isn't anybody young. Like if I need to think about the youngest person, like it might be you.
So it's me or Mark Blackmore. I think is like a couple of months younger.
In the UK. We do sometimes see people we haven't seen before, and it might be that. And I think there are people coming to the hobby, but they're not 26. They're 56 or whatever. So I think there's a lot of life in it. But I do think the average age of the players goes up one each year. I think that's the fact of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they've done a great job of taking from where it was to where it is now. All credit to them for what they've done.
Yeah.
Interestingly, that they've talked about the Hall of Fame is MMP centric, so that kind of turns away the idea that they might recognize any third-party publisher. That's an interesting take. So I guess
and Kurt talked a little bit about that, didn't he? Talked a little bit about third-party producers and how they perhaps feel a little bit of frustration about them sometimes.
Yeah, Yeah, and I can
Yeah,
understand. I mean, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
the trickiness is that I think people feel like the MMP pipeline is a little bit too slow for scenarios that are submitted or articles that are submitted, because they generally only will produce, let's say it's one journal a year, and it's not one journal a year,
Mm,
but roughly one journal a year,
mm,
and one, you know, core product, or one like a big box
mm.
format product a year, and therefore there's not, you know, obviously there's the action pack and there's the winter offensive. This is a bit like the what have the Romans ever done for us? Well, there's only this and there's this and there's this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in terms of, if you look at the output of a third party, all the third party publishers put together,
Mm.
they the MMP pipeline can't support all of those scenarios that are
No,
coming
that's
out.
true.
Where I think is interesting is that if you look at, and I always take, you know, I did a lot of this with Magic when I was playing Magic a lot, and I saw the kind of comparisons between how they managed their tournaments compared to how we manage our tournaments. And now I look at Arkham Horror and how Arkham Horror support the third party side of things. So Final Fantasy games, which is an Asmodee kind of holdings, they are very strict on third
Mm,
party stuff, in so much as you can print and publish, no, sorry, you can print and publish to the internet anything you want, and you can almost use the same art. They don't have a problem with people using the fonts
mm,
and the card formats and everything like that, but you just can't sell it. All right, so
mm,
they are very strict on the whole. Absolutely, you know, that this is available. You know,
mm,
they don't have a problem, to the extent where they print and play their own. You know, here's some free scenarios, a little bit like MMP did with the Provence pack and stuff.
mm.
Here's some free scenarios that you can print off. These are not necessarily to the standard that we have had before, but they are.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
that's that. MMP doesn't have that, where
No.
they kind of have this like ability to close off the third party thing. And
Yeah. Do they legally could MMP prevent people from publishing ASL scenarios?
if
I'd
you
never
use
be
the
sure about that.
yeah, so I think there's a fine line between,
Yeah.
if you use MMP graphics,
Mm,
if you use MMP fonts or anything like that, where
mm.
it's the same, and if you use the
Yeah.
same layout. I think the layouts and the icon graphics
Mm.
are, and I think most third parties, they kind of steer clear of things like copying the scenario card exactly. So
Yeah.
it will
Okay.
be mission text rather than
Mm.
scenario briefing or whatever it
So,
is.
so I often wondered if MMP just sort of tolerate the third-party publishers, but actually the reality is that actually the third-party publishers can do that, and as long as they're careful, and that's
Yeah.
probably more likely to be the case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my understanding was that Avalon Hill, not MMP, Avalon
Mm.
Hill, had copyrighted the idea of a hex with a dot in the middle for the maps, and
Mm.
that was the point of why they could. Now I don't know if that's true, and that, you know, this is just hearsay, but that might have been
Yeah.
a problem. I know that there has been a little bit of an issue recently with Le Franctier, who they didn't winter, they jungleized the maps. I think some of
Mm.
the
Mm.
MMP maps, and I think
Yeah.
that's caused a bit of a
And you could clearly say that's their property, that's MMP's property,
yeah,
couldn't you? Yeah.
yeah,
So I wonder if a part of it, and you talk about the sort of the production, kind of like speed of production with MMP. So if you wanted to produce a scenario and you take it to MMP, and it might come out, but it might be a few years before it comes out. You could go to Le Franctier perhaps, or Bounding Fire, it would be done quite quickly. Is is there like a money element too? I mean, I have no idea like of the economics of producing ASL material.
right,
I have no idea how much, if anything, MMP pay if you give them a scenario.
yeah,
But presumably, if you've got a big name like Schwerpunkt where again, I've got no idea, but I imagine they were able to sell a number of thousands, perhaps, of
yeah,
scenario packs for perhaps
right,
$15 or whatever it
yeah.
is they used to charge. That actually quickly becomes quite a lot of money.
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
So
mm,
the rough, you know, again, this is me pulling numbers, but
mm,
roughly, I believe that MMP pays something like $30 per page for an article, something
yeah,
like that, and probably a free copy of the article
yeah,
that comes in, something like that. I mean, it
sure.
may be
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
double that, it may be
yeah,
half that,
yeah.
but around about that. And I don't
Mm,
know for the scenario packs, but it won't be anywhere near as lucrative, if you like, as if you print it
mm,
yourself. I mean, yeah, you can do the numbers. If you imagine, let's say for example, conservatively, that Schwerpunkt was selling 1,000 copies of their $15 magazine, and we know that they're not going to be selling them all at $15. There'll be some to retail that they'll sell it at whatever 60% off of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But if they're on average, they're selling it at $10 and they're selling 1,000, they're getting 10,000. And I know that there's printing costs involved, and that's not insignificant.
Yeah. But it's not an inconsequential amount of money straight away, is it? It's,
yeah. So there is definitely a difference between the two. I think there is the kudos and the style points, if you like, of being published by MMP.
MMP published.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's great. And I think if there was potentially a faster route, I think that is the hold up for many people. It's the I've spoken to a lot of people who have said that they've got stuff ready to go and they've sent it to MMP, and MMP have said, okay, well, there's nothing in the pipeline for 2 years or whatever. And people have rightly, put a lot of effort into playtesting their scenarios, designing them, and whatever they've done. They want to see a little bit quicker output. And if for example, that means that in 3 months' time, a third publisher will have picked it up and published it for them, then that's that. Yeah. The other side of it, though, we should remember is that when Schwerpunk's a good example because they're no longer around, I don't think.
Yeah.
But when those guys were producing those scenario packs, and let's say, for example, they were getting $10,000, I don't know, but if that's what they were getting, well, in a way that we know that scenario design and play testing and all that kind of stuff per hour, if you work out the cost of what you're getting per hour in terms of being, a wage, it's nowhere near covers that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So.
Schwerpunkt were a number of guys, weren't they, working on things?
Exactly. So, they're giving up their time to play test, and I mean, how much money would it take you to not play any more scenarios, but just play test your own stuff over and over again?
Yeah.
And let's say there's 5 of the guys doing it, it's, and then taking account things like the printing costs and the taxes that you're going to pay and all the bits and pieces. Maybe it's $1,000 each. It's just for and
it's
that's
not
a year.
Life-changing, is it? Yeah.
It's not.
No. Yeah.
So there's I don't know. Having seen it from that side, I think it does sound like when you look at it, you think, okay, it's a lot of money, but actually, and it relies on a lot of goodwill from playtesters and the map guys. People like Tom and those guys that create the maps, and all the unsung heroes. Klaus for doing the rules check-in, and no doubt all the MMP guys that have to get involved as well, plus the support and I don't know. It's a thankless task, but anyway.
Yeah.
There we go.
Brilliant.
All right, Martin, I will catch up with you very soon. We will
play Steamroller for a second time.
We will do, and we'll probably look at. I was keep wanting to play something from Twilight of the Reich, but we maybe if you come around, I've got a new gaming table now, so I bought
I need to come around, and we need to we'd have to do illuminating rounds based around your gaming table.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Yeah.
So we can perhaps play something from Twilight of the Reich, because I don't think the Vassal boards are out yet. So maybe we can do something from that.
Yes. Good. I'm getting mine in at Double One.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well that's
collecting it from Indy. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll be looking forward to seeing him there as well.
Yeah.
Okay then. All right. Well, I'll see you all
right.
next time. Thanks again.
Take care.
Thanks, patrons. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.